Hello again, John. Going to continue on with my sort of series playlist, as it were, about grass bird's tail, grass sparrow's tail from Yang style Taiji Chuan. This video is going to focus, again, I'm going to kind of start small and then build on as we go. So it's just kind of an introduction to the three sort of planes of circles that we'll have. Now, a lot of these ones, especially these first ones, can be expanded back into a larger sort of Taiji context. And I will probably have other videos in my sort of Taiji playlist working on those as well. But this one's just sort of building up into making grass the bird's tail, grass sparrow's tail, a little more competent in terms of how we see things. Now, if you talk to especially like personal trainers and things like that, they'll talk about things like the different planes. We're in a three-dimensional space, so we have three of these planes. So we have the sort of, they call it coronal, which is this sort of like, you cut me in half from here, down this way. So this coronal plane, you have the vertical plane and the horizontal plane. So again, we're in three-dimensional space, so we have these three different circles to play with. Now, really what we're dealing with are different spheres, different sort of rotational spheres. I'm not getting into any sort of like quantum spin or anything like that, but we do want to talk about how our body moves and the way our body can be manipulated and moved along all these ways in these different spheres. And you're not going to get a sort of open, complete sphere to be able to use Y until you are working on the different ways in which to do that. And it's almost like you have sort of three tracks, and then once you start moving the waist more, taking different steps, things along those lines, then those tracks sort of merge more into one whole. So we're just going to talk about the circles right now. We won't get into anything with stepping. I will also, as I teach these in sort of real life, I will also break them down into, so if we have big circles going this way, you can break them down going those other ways as well. It's almost sort of like an intro to silk reeling. For any of you who are the Chansuzing, any of you are familiar with the Chen style silk reeling, Chen Gong, things like that. It's in all the Taiji, it should be there anyway. Usually Chen is the style that kind of breaks that down more specifically. And this can even be a further breakdown of that too. And if you start to notice how things move when you get especially into longer forms of the other postures, how the different planes go. Pardon me. If we talk about brush knee twist step, you have brush knee twist step. You have brush knee, here's horizontal, vertical. Again, vertical as we come out, especially for coming in this way. We have wave hands, again, almost like that clear sort of silk reeling if we come out this way for, Chen, keep it here for Yang. It's this plane, it's that coronal plane that you're working with as well. So I'm just going to kind of take a few seconds and just sort of demonstrate all those ones. Now again, I'm going to keep my shoulders and my hips lined up. Back up so you can see shoulders and the hips lined up. And again, moving from the Dantian. We've talked about that in other videos before, and it's going to still be from the Dantian. So to review very quickly, about 2 inches below the navel, into the body. The second, or sacral chakra, if you're familiar with that. Lower Dantian, usually the Chinese will break it lower, middle, upper. It's the lower Dantian. I'm probably just going to refer to it as just flat out Dantian. Makes it easier. Most of the time people are pretty much going to understand what they mean by that if you're just Dantian. That anyway. So, navel, Dantian, in. So, first one I'm going to get out of the way is the coronal. I'm going to use both hands. I'm going to lead here. I was actually told people, was like, listen, I I've done it just as kind of an experiment with either minimal or sometimes no hand movement, played the whole routines just from the dantian. So you get the same feeling, the same impression and everything from the dantian, because that's what is directing everything that's going on. That's the focus, that's where it's coming from. So the power comes up from the legs, but it's still getting transferred out and where to go from the dantian. So, navel, dantian. I'm just going to start hands together. So I'm going to make circles, coronal plane. Now one of the things you can think of, I've seen this with the Chen, is I talk about protect the face, protect the groin. One of the things we can do with this is actually protect the head, come down below the hips. So make big circles. Make big circles, just get used to the body moving in that rhythmic, silk reeling sort of way. Nice and smooth. So we make coronal. Now I usually tend to go in 8, 12, or 16 reps. And if I miss 1 or 2, I'm a little off with that. Just deal with it. And you can do however you like. But see how it's leading from here and the arms follow. Do 2 more this way just to kind of review. 1, 2, good, and then I'm going to switch. And breathe. So we breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Or it can be one whole breathe in, breathe out. Usually it's easier to breathe in, and we're inflating. Exhale and release. 2 more. 1, 2. So right now with this, we're just sort of working on getting that motion, get the whole body working together, start working on those different planes. You don't really need to worry or work on, oh, well, okay, well, he punches, oh, I come in here, or kicks and everything like that too. There are the ways to make those applicable in self-defense or sort of fighting situations with that too. Right now, all I'm focusing on with this singular video is getting an exposure to those 3 planes and building, starting small and building how we're going to start moving with that as we work into becoming more proficient in with grass bird's tail. So we have the coronal plane, that's sort of flat, like looking at a clock, an analog clock coming around. Next one I usually go coronal, vertical, horizontal. I don't know why that's the pattern I usually go with, but that's the pattern I usually go with, so I'm going to stick to it here. Next one, vertical. So it's almost like thinking like get both hands into those arms of the train. As we split, you even start getting into like that sort of bicycling, or those different like stepping obliquely from Chen style, things like that. And you can also back up, getting into like hand strum the lute, and things like that too. But also we see it with on. The on thing from grass bird's tail. We come in and forward. But this one is going to have that exaggeration of the big circle. So we're still going to keep it about face, shoulder, and kind of hip, groin distance with the body with this. Everything moving together. And there's even like sitting, or even you can do this with your standing meditations where you're actually spinning the dantian in here. Vertically, both ways, horizontally. And even as you progress more, there's less of this sort of ostentatious outward movement, and it becomes more specifically internal. So, we did coronal, we're going to do vertical. I'm going to come forward first by the hips, circle up, so I'm still moving in an arc. Still being led by the Dantian. So breathe in. Breathe out. You can even sort of breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now again, what we do to one side, we do to the other, so we can breathe in. Breathe out. And watch, my shoulders aren't spiking, my elbows aren't flying out or collapsing in. Moving with the Dantian, the arms are following. Two more after this. Good. So that's vertical. Now we're going to go with horizontal. So this one's almost like kind of got that wheel chugging sort of thing. This one's going to have almost like wiping or stirring. You can think, like witches, double, toil and trouble, etc., going both ways, cleaning the table, anything else. You've probably seen, they've had that in movies where they have like the grinder, like the mill, the grist mill, whatever, and you see the guys doing one of these, having to move it around. That was my knee, moving around. So it's going to be kind of like that. Now there's almost a downward sort of press in with that as well, I find. Or at the very least, it helps me be consistent with keeping it supported from underneath. So a lot of the times in the internals, what we're talking about is because I have something punching up, there's going to be something pulling down. Because again, it's not just the muscle, like sort of thing. There's got to be, for correct power coming one way, there's something coming out the other way. A lot of times, and this sounds weird, but we're working on the pressures, like the fluid pressures in our body, and having everything coordinated together. So everything coordinated together to get good power coming up, something's got to come down. If I want something to pull down, something's coming up. So if I'm staying flat, then there's something that's kind of down pressing. There's something up with that too. So it's helping balance out, even if it's coming up the back or something sort of weird. I'm trying not to get all kind of weird with some of it. But that helps me having a little bit of a downward pressing in with that too. So horizontal. This might be the easiest to sort of get the handle of and to begin to see leading from Dantian. Two more. Good. And reverse. Good. You can think, even breathe in, breathe out. Breathing in, a lot of times we'll have that almost inflating, and exhaling will have that sort of gathering back in aspect to it. Again, I don't want to say open, close, or expand, contract, because I don't believe that close and contract have good intent when we're trying to keep things kind of open and flowing and loose and relaxed. So I'll say open and gather, or expand and usually I'll pretty much stick with gather with that, because again it's coming back in. Deflating also kind of has that idea, oh, I'm up, almost collapsing sort of thing. I don't want that either. I don't want you to have that either. Skip it. Anyway, so brief introduction, I say brief, of the sort of three circles, the three planes for the body. Again, you'll see that I've seen it with Bruce Kumar Francis talks about it. I've seen it when I've done research for like physical fitness, physical therapy. I've seen it when I've also done some research going into trying to, I guess, sort of translate, for lack of a better description, starting small and building for things like silk reeling. Because if we just sort of say, okay, well, we got to stay relaxed, moving, you take the silk out of the worm, it's got to be in rounded, consistent, slow, relaxed, smooth motions. People are just like, I'm not pulling some out. What? So this is sort of like a way to simplify and intro that for the silk reeling. And even though I'm primarily a yang style guy, I'll use silk reeling for beginning students to help with being able to get the body to shift wholly, start talking about the angles of the feet, pushing the weight back and forth from heel to heel, turning the torso as one unit around the axle of the center line, as well as being able to coordinate the breath and the movement and moving smoothly in a round way and not stopping. So it's not, okay, I'm here and all right, I stop and then I pull down and then I move over. No, it's all one rotation. So that's that. This is again going on the sort of grass sparrow's tail playlist. I will have probably this some more also in the Taiji one a little bit later too. So that's it. Like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Next up should be, if I do this correctly, we'll start into just basic hold the ball. Then we're going to start showing kind of legs and then putting all those things together with the legs, and then getting into grass bird's tail as the actual 4-part posture. Right? Thank you.